You know, a really interesting question is the question of why we play games, or we go driving, for example, why we do all of these things. And yet, when it comes to the things we know that are going to be good for us, when we know that doing this work, writing those articles, doing those sorts of things are important, but we avoid them. We really avoid them at all costs. You know, you don't need to be encouraged to play a game of Destiny. You don't need to be encouraged to play Candy Crush or, you know, watch a movie or a TV that you've been looking forward to watching. Yet, when intellectually we know that something is so important, we don't do it. You know, we know it's important to jog. We know it's important to eat well. We know it's important to write an article. We know it's important to do a new experiment with our business or a test. And I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, what's the difference here? What makes all the difference? And to me, it's got to be fear. And it's that fear of failure, I think, is the big deal here, right? I think that is the thing that's the biggest problem. And to me, that's really interesting intellectually, because when you actually shine a light on that, it doesn't actually make a lot of sense. As I'm driving into the sun, it doesn't make a lot of sense at all. If you think about it, you know, none of those things it's going to kill you, right? None of those things are going to hurt you. None of those things are going to, you know, cause you any physical or mental stress. Yet we avoid them just like, you know, it was something that would be that big a deal, would be that much of a problem. And I think it's because, I think it was, you know, Seth Godin, who was probably reporting on other people, said, you know, that part of the brain, that fight or flight part of the brain, you know, assesses these threats, whether somebody's coming at you with a gun or you have to write an article for your blog, pretty much the same way. It processes them pretty much the same way. Yet when you play a game, you know that even though it's maybe stressful or maybe it's challenging, ultimately the result doesn't matter. Like, sure, you can win or lose, but it's just a game, right? It's just a game. And that disconnect, that mental disconnect, to me is incredibly fascinating. And that's why I think the efforts of people, you hear about gamification and all these sorts of things. Tony Robbins used to say this very good. You know, how can you take an activity that you're not looking forward, can you do or make it more pleasurable or add something to encourage you to do it more? And that's the interesting science of all of this. And I think the first part of all of this, and I think it's a classic of any problem that you ever are starting with, is if you shine a light on it, if you acknowledge that that is an issue, then often that can be enough to get you going. Because doing that test, doing that Facebook ad test, doing that blog post, doing the new experiment, unfortunately, because there's a sense of success or failure in this, the problem, the thing that happens, is that limbic part of your brain steps in, and you know, and it's been cultivated and cultured ever since school. You know, where wrong is wrong and bad, and right is correct and well done, and this is fantastic. They're the two different things, if you like. They're the two separate states. And if only we could realise, and intellectually, you know, once, as I say, you shine a light on this, it makes perfect sense, that, you know, whether this Facebook ad works or not is just an experiment. It's not a personal indictment on your character that it's a failure. But because there is a chance of failure, then we're much less likely to do it. When we're playing a game, you can't fail watching TV. You can't really fail reading a book. You can't fail at, you know, playing a game. You can lose a game, but it's not fail. Like, it's not your whole net worth is not wrapped up on the fact that you have lost this game. And of course, that, you know, that's where sport, you have problems in sport when it does become that, right? When it does mentally become that. So have a think about that this week. Have a think about the fact that that experiment that you've been putting off, that thing that you've been deciding is not worth it, or you've been putting off, or, you know, procrastinating on. Instead, with that, let's do this and say, you know what? It's just an experiment. It doesn't matter, you know, I'll win, I'll lose, it'll be whatever it is whatever it is. But the good thing is that I will have done it. And that is a huge win, right, for everybody. That makes a big, big difference. So I hope that's been useful for you today. Bit of Top Gear car style for you on the 6 Plus. But hey, if you're not watching this on the blog, and I'd love to get your comments and feedback, is there a time when you've analysed something like this and you've realised that, you know, when you actually put the cold light, shine that light on it, it doesn't make a lot of sense? Have you done that before? If you have, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you're watching this video anywhere other than my blog at eddale.co, you're missing out on all the comments and all the opportunities to take part in the debate. And I read all those comments and respond where it's appropriate. So love to do that and love to speak to you about that. And by the way, if you like what you've heard today, if you get the opportunity to share it or tweet it or like, that would be much appreciated as well. And final thing is, the challenge is not far from starting at all. So if you want to get 30 days of training, then I'd love you to sign up at challenge.co. So with that, have a great week and we'll speak soon.